Okay, welcome everyone. Today we would like to continue our Ask a Monk series, this time with Venerable Siri Chando. And our question is, how did you become a Buddhist monk?
Hello, everybody. I'm Siri Chando. I'm a bhikkhu ordained in the Mahanikaya in Chiang Mai, Thailand, at the monastery Wat Lampong. I was ordained about 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years next month. I've already gone through 2 Vasas, that's 2 rains retreats. I'm a student of Venerable Yuttadhammo, which, if you're watching this, you already know that pretty well. So the question is how I became a Buddhist monk. Well, that morning, I woke up at Wat Lampong in my room. I'd been staying there about a month, and I was told to go to the main central area to get my hair cut. My mother had come from the United States so that she could be there for the ordination ceremony, and she, along with many of the local Thai devotees and even some of the monks, were cutting the hair of all the different ordination candidates. So I sat down in my chair and they proceeded to cut my hair off in a sort of a community gathering, not the kind of thing that I'd ever been a participant in before or even seen before. But I knew that monks didn't have any hair, so now I found out how it's done. Not too much after that, I was asked to go to the Dhamma hall where they were performing the ceremony and sit with all the other candidates. I think it was 16 candidates. I was the only foreigner. Everyone else was Thai, or seemed Thai to me. Maybe there are some details I didn't know. But we all sat there, and it wasn't something totally unprepared for all of us. We had all choreographed over the previous days where to stand, where to sit, what to chant, when to bow, all of the different details we had practiced together. Now, I don't speak Thai, so it might have been a little bit rougher when I did it than all of the others, but I looked out the side of my eye to see what the others were doing and just kind of went along with them. I'm sure I was a mess. I was a foreigner and an older person and a giant as well compared to all of these people. I know I stood out because a lot of people came to me afterward. They were so impressed to see a foreigner ordaining. So you go through this ceremony. The first thing you do when you ordain, you request ordination as a novice. So you recite some Pali. Everyone together recites all of these things in Pali to say, please take me as a novice, ordain me. I want to go to the holy life, give up all of my belongings, and so on. And so in Pali, I made these requests, and it was approved, and I was given my robes to wear, my first set of robes. Now, at this point, I had already given away everything that I owned. I had a life before choosing to be a monk. I had property and belongings and friends and relationships and all of this complexity back in the United States, but I had given all of that up to live in this monastery and gotten my living parents' permission and gotten free from debt and all the other requirements. So you ask to become a novice monk. They give you your robes and you are taught how to wear them. Well, taught is a little overstating. They put them on you. They drag you off and they put on your robes for you. You don't really know, I didn't really know how to properly wear the robes. I just knew that whatever they had done was correct. So you put on your robes and you come back and they confirm that you are a novice. And then they teach you a few basics about being a monk. and they send you off out into the monastery for a few hours to go about your business. During that time, I had my mother there with me, and she offered back to me some of the belongings that I had brought with me that are allowable for monks, things like my mobile phone and paper and pens and these other kinds of things that a monk is allowed to have. And I went and I had a meal that day. My mother had paid for the meal for the whole monastery, so she fed hundreds of people that day, which was really nice. They made a little announcement about it. I don't know if she understood, but I heard her name, so I know that all of these people knew that she had done that nice thing for them. Then after the meal, we were sent back into the Dhamma hall. We novices and the lay people who wanted to watch were all ringed around. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. Probably should have mentioned that this ceremony is not completely isolated from the lay people. The lay community in Thailand, they're very involved in Buddhism, and so they all wanted to be there. The way they constructed this Dhamma hall, it had an area, like a raised platform area, only for the people involved in the ordination ceremony. And then ringed around it were an audience of people, both inside and outside. There were actually too many people there for everyone to stay inside. So once we came back inside, we novices and someone who was designated to, a layperson who was designated to participate in the ceremony, they came and offered us our first bowl. And the bowl was something that, like the robes that I had procured a little bit earlier, they were actually both donated, so I wasn't involved in the purchasing of these things. They were just kind of given over for my use. So my mother gave to me this bowl. I ceremonially asked forgiveness of her and asked her forgiveness of me, so that we would start off on the right foot from my monastic life. Then from there, the lay people were cleared away, and the novices made more requests in Pali to take upasampada, the formal ordination of a bhikkhu, a full monk. Not everyone who was there went on to become a full monk. Some remained novices, the ones who would only be ordained for a short time. So we made this request of our preceptor, Ajahn Supan, the head monk at Wat Lampong, and he accepted us as bhikkhus. And then he gave teaching. It was in Thai, but our esteemed teacher, Venerable Yuttadhammo, he would whisper to me point after point. He knew that I knew them all. I had read through this ceremony many times and met with him many times before to discuss how it would be done and what would be said at what time. But he would say to me, okay, now these are the 4 things you must never do. And he went through the same teaching that was being taught in Thai in English for my benefit, which was very nice. I wasn't sure he was going to be there at all. He kind of surprised me pleasantly at that time that he wanted to participate. Or maybe he was asked to by someone else, I don't know. So we're taught the 4 Noble Truths, the Eightfold Noble Path, the 4 things monks are not to do, which include not to take the life of a human being, not to steal, take anything of any value that isn't freely given to us, not to engage in any sort of sexual activity, and essentially not to boast, not to claim any supernatural or supernormal, outside of the norm experiences or capabilities. So after being taught those things, we for the first time, us new bhikkhus, chanted to the lay people, gave a teaching about generosity and the effects of karma, going from life after life, a ceremonial thing that's very common to do in Thailand. When you go on alms round in Thailand, the people, they know what to expect from you. They put food in your bowl, and then they will often have a dish of water, and they will pour the water out, and you will chant in Pali this teaching about how the merit that a person makes can go on even to benefit the dead. So for the first time in this Dhamma hall during this ordination ceremony, we all chanted this verse. Then all of the lay people wanted for the first time to put food in our bowl. Now, by now, monks cannot accept food at this hour. It was after 12 o'clock. We shouldn't accept any sort of food. If we do accept any food, we certainly can't eat it. It would be improper to do so. But that's what the people wanted to do. So they would put food in the bowl. It's also very common in Thailand to give monks money. Now, if you know Venerable Yuttadhammo, you know he doesn't use money, and I wanted to be like my teacher, so I also didn't want to accept any money. So for the first time, I had to reject offerings into the bowl whenever I could tell that somebody wanted to give money. But they're very sneaky. They want to make merit, so they want to give. And they're used to giving money even to monks. So they would hide the money in a bag or hide it under some food, hide it in an envelope. And there's a problem with that. When you're given money, you can't appreciate it, you can't approve of it. You kind of have to act like it's something dirty inside of your bowl. And I had already prepared my mother, if I tell you there's something bad in my bowl, you have to take it out. I told her this when I was still a lay person. So I showed her my bowl, and she took out the things that monks can't have, leaving me with some food. And luckily they'd done this before in this monastery many times. This whole ceremony, everybody knew better than I did, certainly. So the food that was in all of our bowls, they gave us a big basket to dump it all into. And from there they would take it over to the monastery kitchen and then offer it up for people later on. So we had gotten our robes, we had gotten our bowl. We were staying at the monastery, so we had a place to stay. And if any of us was sick or injured, we had access to basic medicines at the monastery. So we had our 4 requisites. And at that time we were monks, and that's how I became a monk. Now that was probably not the answer that you were looking for when you asked, but it is the answer to your question. Probably want to know why I became a monk. Why are there monks? So, even in the time of the Buddha, there were already spiritual wanderers. There were already ascetics. It was already a part of society at that part of India, and I think all of India, maybe all of Asia, maybe all of the world at that time, that there are people who just go off into the forest. They wander away. They don't want to be part of the society. They don't want to marry and have children, or maybe they are married and they don't want to stay married. Maybe they have children, they don't want to stay and raise the children. They get up and they go away. And so even in this modern time, there are people like that too. Certainly the idea has to come upon a person at some point in their life that they don't want to live like everybody else, or like the prescription of life that they've been taught as normal is the one for them. So I had known for a lot of my life that I wasn't very interested in the goals that people set out for themselves. Earning a living and raising a family and all of this, to me, everyone had already done it. There was nothing new to learn. That doesn't mean I didn't try. I had a pretty good job. At one point I even had a marriage. So I had experienced a little bit of all of that, and all of the trouble and all of the suffering that comes along with it. But long before I even knew what Buddhism was, I had already seen that there are some negative sides to living in the world. But once I had learned how to meditate, especially to learn Vipassana, I knew very quickly, in my first retreat, before I had even finished my first retreat, I knew I could live like this. But that was still about 8 years before I ordained, that I had realized that I could live like this. After that realization, I of course finished my retreat, and I set to studying, I set to reading. I had wondered, because the tradition in which I had learned to meditate wasn't this tradition that I now practice and help to teach. It was a tradition run by a lay community, and they had no real involvement with the monastic sangha at all. But I knew it had something to do with Buddhism, this meditation they taught. The videotapes that were shown to us every single day, they mentioned this guy, the Buddha. And I had already sort of known who that was because I had already read the Patimokkha, the monastic code of conduct, and tried to live that way while I was at this retreat, even though I don't think that was required or even asked of anybody. I just wanted to be as pure as possible in my attempt. So I had wondered, well, do the Buddhists know about this Vipassana meditation? Do Buddhists know about meditation? Do Buddhists know about Nirvana? I wondered because, well, growing up in the United States in these modern times, you get the idea that a lot of religion that people practice, they more like they fill a checkbox on a census form. Oh, I am this kind of religion, I'm that kind of religion. And they don't ever dive in and find out what it's all about. I felt like I had dived in before checking any checkbox. Didn't even call myself a Buddhist by that point, but I wanted to know, do these Buddhists know about Vipassana? Do these Buddhists know about meditation? Do these Buddhists know about freedom from suffering? And I looked everywhere among Buddhist communities. I looked in the newer schools and the older schools alike. And I found some good wisdom in each of these schools. Okay, there's something here, something here. But because of my temperament, I think I wasn't too inclined to the newer schools that are more worshipful and more cosmic, more supernatural in what they practice and they study. So I went to older and older schools to find something closer and closer to what the Buddha himself actually taught. I was reading the Pali Canon, the canonized texts that the Theravada Buddhists consider to be most important, consider to be the words of the Buddha and the specific teachings of the Buddha, the historical Buddha, Gautama, who lived 2,600 years ago in northern India. I'd read all of these suttas and I was looking for some sort of teacher, a monastic teacher who knew all of these things and studied them and practiced them well. And I came across Yutta Dhammo on YouTube, like many of you probably have done. And I made the decision almost immediately, okay, that's the monk I want to ordain me. 7 years before my ordination, I had realized this. And I asked him via email, hey, Yutta Dhammo, can you ordain me? I think I should be a monk. Being a monk would be great. You know, I wrote this long email that I thought was so convincing. Days passed, weeks passed, no answer. And I realized, oh, he answered correctly. You shouldn't ordain someone that you've never heard of. You don't know what they're thinking. This idea must occur to many people, and then just as quickly they wander away. Certainly I've found, since my ordination, for that to be true. All the monks that I've ordained with have disrobed by now. So I know that feelings come and go, motivation comes and goes. He was right not to answer. But I didn't just let it go myself when I didn't get an answer. I decided, okay, well, if I'm not going to be a monk, then I'm going to learn everything this person has to teach, because I can tell he really knows something. So Yutta Dhammo was teaching a study group on the internet, and I joined in with that study group. We were studying the Abhidhamma Sangaha, the manual of Abhidhamma. So I joined with that and I participated in that study group. The study group is still going on. If you're not participating in it, you really should. if you see those videos and you immediately click away, no, give it a shot. It's worth it. So I joined that study group, and very quickly Yuttadhammo asked in one of these study groups, oh, someone can help my mother wants to make a donation to charity, and she needs someone to run the fundraiser. It's not exactly with his organization Sirimangalo, but it's something. And I thought, okay, well, I haven't done anything good for these people yet. I'll try and show my value. I'll try and do something worthwhile, something helpful for people. So I ran this fundraiser, and we succeeded, made the amount, and donated to this group called Children's Home Network in Florida for orphaned children, I think it was, or just children who needed a place to stay. Well, one good deed deserves another, I suppose, and so I began volunteering little ways. I was good with computers, so I volunteered with the computers. I got more and more involved in this group. And eventually they asked for new people to join the board of directors, and I joined the board of directors for the group. And that was probably about between 5 and 6 years ago. We're about to have the annual general meeting, so that'll mark my anniversary as a director, but I honestly don't know which year it is, 5 or 6. It's been a while. And I continued to participate as a layperson, just helping. Oh, I should mention at this time, I knew that there are certain conditions they ask you about when you ordain. I had learned this. They ask you questions like, are you wanted by the police? Are you in any sort of debt? Do you have any of this certain set of diseases? All of these different questions. And one of the questions is, do you have the permission of your parents? And I should mention, I did not have the permission of both of my parents. My mother was keen to let me do whatever I wanted to do, but my father said, over my dead body, you'll become a monk. And so I wasn't qualified to become a monk. So there I was instead as a layperson, living by the 8 precepts, having a kind of a very restrained lifestyle. If you don't know the 8 precepts, they're pretty restrictive. A lot of modern American life is out the window if you follow the 8 precepts. You can't participate in a lot of it. So I'd study and I'd meditate and I'd go to work and I'd volunteer and I'd do chores for my parents and things like this. Maintain my friendships to whatever degree I could, given those precepts. And my life became simpler and simpler, quieter and quieter. Instead of buying new things, I would give things away. I'd reduce my property, always knowing that I was going to ordain. Opportunities would come for this or that thing, a new job, a promotion, a relationship. I'd turn them all down, knowing that I was going to ordain. So over all of these years, quieter and quieter, simpler and simpler, more and more focused. And then one day, about 2 years ago, 2 years and a few months, my father passed away. And when that happened, I was there to see his body decaying. We came upon him 4 days after he died, so it had already been pretty corpseified, already pretty bloated and ugly. And I looked around at my family and I realized that I was the only one who wasn't completely beside himself with grief. I knew death was coming for any of us, and we never knew when. And I knew that I had nothing to do with ordinary lay life anymore. It was over for me. And I knew that there was nothing left preventing me from becoming a monk. So I told Venerable Yuttadhammo, hey, I've fulfilled the conditions. I can say yes to all of the appropriate questions in ordination. And he took that information and didn't say anything back. But a few months later, he said, hey, this monastery I'm staying at in Thailand, it's a pretty good place. And I think if you wanted to ordain still, you could ordain here. Oh, well, the time has come. I told him, I don't have any other plans. Might as well. So whatever belongings I had left, I gave away to my friends or donated. Whatever money I had, I gave away or I donated, except for a plane ticket to Thailand. It was the last thing I spent money on. Everything else I'd given away. Had friends who needed money, I gave them money. Monasteries that housed monks and nuns that I found inspiring, I gave money to all of them. And to my mother, who I'd always wondered if she would be financially solvent in her old age, I gave her the lion's share of the rest and told her, this isn't for my use, this is for your use. You take it. And I told her as a joke, buy as many fur coats as you want. I don't advocate owning fur. But it was only a joke. And by the way, that hasn't stopped her. She donates to the monks all the time. She still wants her son to have things even if he doesn't need them. So I went to Thailand and I stayed at this monastery, Wat Lampong. I met the monk who had become my preceptor, Ajahn Supan. I saw the way the Thai monks were doing things. Very different from Yuttadhammo, I would say. He's a singular type of monk. I've met monks who are maybe more austere, who make an effort to live as though it were 2,600 years ago. They won't use a computer, or they won't be videotaped. They won't give their teachings on the internet. I'm very grateful that Yuttadhammo does do so. It's been a big part of my life that he has. But I saw the way that the people were doing things in Thailand. I saw the way that Yuttadhammo was doing things, and I said, oh, I will try to be more like him than I will try to be like them. And immediately I also knew, because Yuttadhammo has said so, that way lies trouble. That way lies some difficulty in the community. You have to be very careful as a monk not to develop an ego about austerity, not to develop an ego about your discipline. It doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just guards you against things that you want to guard against, things that you find dangerous, like taking money. Small thing, but you break one rule, you'll happily break a second. So I've been following Yuttadhammo around. He's very patient with me. If I have questions, he answers them. If I need correction, he'll correct me. And he allows me to sit in as he teaches meditation students and learn that way. So I suppose that answers not only the question that was asked, but I think the question that people wanted to know, or that you wanted to know, how I became a Buddhist monk and why I became a Buddhist monk, and also maybe a little bit of what it's like to be a Buddhist monk. A lot of people ask Yuttadhammo this question. A lot of people ask him what I asked him. Hey, will you ordain me? And the answer is always going to be no answer. So don't worry about that. Being a monk isn't like falling off a log, as they say. It isn't a quick thing to do. It's difficult to reverse if it's not the thing you want to do. And it's not the only way to progress and develop. Even in the Buddhist time, even lay people can attain Nibbana. So being a monk isn't everything. But for some people, the lay life doesn't really hold much appeal. It doesn't hold much draw. So it's possible to become a monk. And some percentage of the people who think it's right for them are correct. Okay, I think I've said enough about all of this.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.